Hi, I'm Jordana Michelle, lesbian love coach and creator of Women Wanting Women, the place to be to find and keep lesbian love and to learn the secrets of how women attract each other. And there are links below if you want free access to some of what I teach there. But in this video, I want to talk about the most dangerous kind of woman that anyone can date. And this topic is really important because when we date a dangerous woman like this, heartbreak is 100% guaranteed. And heartbreak is one of the most painful things that anyone encounters in life. Not only does it make us really sad and depressed, but heartbreaks also drain us of energy and they drain us of our confidence. And when we fall for these dangerous kinds of women, we literally are left worse off than we were before we met them. So it's really important to understand who they are and how to avoid them. Now, I want to be really clear. Love always involves risking heartbreak. Whenever we fall in love with someone, whenever we start a new relationship with someone, there's always the risk that at some point it's going to end and that at some point we're going to have to face a broken heart. And that's okay, because love is really worth the risk, because love is the best thing in the entire world. And what's life about if we don't have love in it? Someone can have literally all the money and all the power on earth, but if there's nobody to share it with and to look forward to seeing every day, then it could be all empty. So love is definitely worth the risk. And even though we get hurt sometimes, when you get to have good love during the time that you have it, oftentimes a broken heart's actually a great learning experience. And even if it's painful and even if it's hard, it's still worth the risk for everything that we learn from love and everything we gain from that relationship, and then also everything we learn from the heartbreak. But what's not worth the risk is entering into a situation where we are guaranteed to have our heart broken. Falling for women who are never going to give us love and who are literally going to leave us worse off than we were when we found them. Because then we're just setting ourselves up for pain without any real chance of getting that benefit that I'm talking about. And that is a really dangerous thing for us to do to ourselves. Love is a lot like a roller coaster ride. You know how at the amusement park, when you're waiting in line to get on the ride, on the roller coaster, you kind of wait in line, and at that point, you can walk off the line anytime you want. But when that little car comes into the station and we sit inside the car and the safety bar comes down over us and locks in, once we're locked in and that little car starts to move, there is no getting off the ride until it's gone through the entire track and pulls back around into the station again. Once we're on that ride, once we fall for her, we have to go through the whole thing until we literally move through the process of healing our broken heart and getting over her. So that's why falling for someone is a lot like a roller coaster ride. And that's why it's really important while we're still in that line, while we still have time to get off, to be making sure that we're not falling for a dangerous person. So what do I mean by dangerous woman? What am I talking about here? What I'm talking about is emotional unavailability. I'm talking about emotionally unavailable women. Women who are emotionally unavailable are unwilling and unable and never going to give us the relationship that we want. See, our hearts are wired for love and connection, and when we are lonely and when we're single, we want to find someone and have a partnership with them. We want to have love, we want to have togetherness, we want to have connection, we want to feel affection, we want to feel wanted. But people who are in a place where they're emotionally unavailable, they can't and they won't, and they're not going to give us the love that we want. And there's nothing that we can ever do to change that. When someone's unavailable, there's no convincing her to give us what we want from her. There's no changing her. Nothing we do could ever convince her. And in fact, the more we ever try and convince emotionally unavailable people to give us the love that we want, the more turned off they get. In fact, they might tell us that we're needy or that we're annoying. We might start to even believe them and feel bad about ourselves. That's why heartbreak with them is 100% guaranteed. And it's not because we're needy, and it's not because we're desperate, and it's not because there's something wrong with us. Our hearts are wired for love. There's a certain amount of affection and attention and connection that we want, that we long for, because that's how we're built. We're built to couple, and we're built to love affection. That's just how the human animal is built. And so it's normal for us to want to connect. But when a woman is emotionally unavailable, she's not capable of giving us the kind of connection that we need, that we deserve, and that we're longing for. Still, it's so common for people to fall for emotionally unavailable women. Why does it happen? What's that all about? Well, what ends up happening is when we first meet someone, especially if we're single and we're lonely and we're looking for love and we're looking for that kind of connection, If we meet someone that seems really promising, that seems like it could be amazing, that seems like, oh wow, I have found someone that really could give me what I'm longing for in love. When we find something like that, what we can end up doing is creating a fantasy about it. Or we take a mental image of the one time that we made out with her, or the one time that we had a great conversation with her, or we maybe never even had something like that. We just imagine what it would be like if we did, or whatever. We extrapolate something and make up an image of the thing that we want with her, and thinking about it is really yummy. It's really hot and exciting. So we see that in our mind and we think, ooh, that's yummy. And so then we start to play the fantasy over and over and over again because it's just so good and yummy. The more we think about it, the more we start to believe it. Because thoughts, the more we repeat thoughts, the more we start to believe in them. Beliefs are just thoughts that we've repeated so often that we start to completely buy into them and become convinced that that's how things really are. So when we have a fantasy about a woman, even if she's emotionally unavailable, even if she's never going to be ours, if we have this idea about her and we play it enough times in our head, we can start to become convinced that this is how it would be with her, like this amazing situation is how things would really be with us if only she would spend more time with us, or if only she would stop being so messed up, or if only, fill in the blank, if only. We all have our own if onlys, but the idea is that we start with a fantasy and we think about it so many times that we start to believe in it, and then we literally are convinced that this fantasy that we created, this delusion that we made in our mind, is actually the truth about how our relationship with her would be. Now, the problem is that in reality, she's not going to give us those things. So while we're feeling this desire for her, and while our fantasy keeps increasing, and while we start to believe in it more and more, we get more and more hurt because she's not there. When we're actually dating someone, when we're with someone who's really showing up for us, we don't have to make things up. I mean, she's right there, and we get to really engage in the reality. But when it's someone who's emotionally unavailable, all we ever get is our fantasy and then the frustration that she's not letting us make this fantasy come true. Now, there are two different ways that we can notice that someone is emotionally unavailable. One has to do with time, and one has to do with our desires. When we are looking at it from the perspective of time, what we see is that the amount of time that we spend thinking about this woman, thinking about her, fantasizing about her, talking to our friends about her, trying to ask our friends what they think about how it's going to work out and how we can make it work out, wondering when she's going to call, or what we should say when we call, or what we can do to get her to become more available to us. The amount of time that we spend thinking about her is totally disproportionate from the actual amount of time that we spend hanging out with her, or FaceTiming with her, having a video chat with her on the phone, or talking to her on the phone, or even having a deeply engaged text message conversation. That whole amount of time that she occupies our mind without being there is disproportionately greater than the actual amount of time that we get to spend with her. When that's totally disproportionate, then we know that something's up and she's emotionally unavailable. Now, sometimes someone's emotionally unavailable and she's there, and that's when the other type of emotional unavailability comes in. Because there are some women who are emotionally unavailable but still give us a lot of time. And that could be because some women just want attention, or they want affection, or they want to crash at our place and have a place to stay because they otherwise don't want to pay rent. Or there's some other benefit that they get from being with us that really isn't about them loving us and caring for us and wanting to nurture us or wanting to connect with us the way that we want to be connected with. And it's not because we're needy, and it's not because there's something wrong with us. Human hearts are wired for connection, and we should have the love that we want in our life, because it's not needy to want someone to care for us. It's not needy for us to want someone who desires us and adores us the way that we adore them. It's not needy to want to be treasured the way that we treasure somebody else. And if we're feeling unsafe, like the person we're with isn't treasuring us the same way that we're treasuring her, then it's a really good sign that we might be with an emotionally unavailable woman. So when we find that we're pursuing an emotionally unavailable woman, there are 3 things that we have to do. The first thing we need to do is recognize it. And like I said, that either comes down to recognizing that the ratio of time that we're thinking about her is disproportionate, or that our needs are not being met. But when one of these 2 things are happening, we have to recognize it. And this is actually pretty hard because we don't want to know. When we like someone, we want it to work out. We don't want to see that we're being delusional. Even if we're being delusional, we don't want to see that we're being delusional because the fantasy is so yummy and we're lonely. When we're single and we want to connect and we want love and we meet someone who seems like she could be it, we want it to work out. So nobody really wants to ever recognize or admit the fact that we're being delusional by chasing someone who's emotionally unavailable. That the thing we're going for is never going to happen, because that sucks. It sucks to have to start from square one. It sucks to have to accept the fact that this person that we really want she's just never going to give us what we want. That's a crummy feeling. Nobody wants to feel that way. But the first step is that we really do have to recognize it. And once we do recognize that we're pursuing someone who's emotionally unavailable, the next step is to get some self-control. Because the truth is that it's only our repetition of the fantasy about her that's keeping us on that ride. Because we have total choice over the thoughts that we think. There's nobody else who can make us think a thought that we're not actively choosing ourselves. And the more we replay that fantasy and the more we allow ourselves to indulge there, the more that we keep ourselves locked into this belief. Even if it is yummy and juicy to have that fantasy, there comes a point when we have to realize this is bad for us. And so it's up to us, and we need to get some self-control. No matter how juicy the fantasy might be, we need to pick a different thought and put our thoughts in a place that'll be more productive and take them away from this person who does not deserve our thoughts. And then the third step is we have to be really kind to ourselves. We have to let ourselves mourn for the fact that we are suffering a real loss. Because what we did when we started falling for this emotionally unavailable woman is we started to really treasure the idea of being with her. The idea of a relationship with this woman became something that we believed in and treasured and valued. And so having to let go of it and give up on it and say goodbye to it, that hurts. And maybe it's not going to be a full broken heart the way that broken hearts can really be when we lose big love, but it hurts, and it's not something that is easy to go through. So we have to be kind to ourselves and really let ourselves mourn the loss that we are truly dealing with when we have to let go of someone that we have a crush on. Maybe up until now we've held her up on a pedestal, but now it's time for us to put ourselves up on a pedestal. So whatever it is that you do for self-care, for self-nurturing, it's time to really turn that on, because you deserve it and because it's time to just make yourself feel better. And don't blame yourself. It's okay. We all fall for emotionally unavailable women. I almost don't know anyone who hasn't had this problem in their life. It's pretty universal. Everyone at some point falls for someone who's unavailable and then has to deal with it. This is just part of life, and it's part of love, and it's part of what happens, and it's totally okay. And the thing that we have to do is just recognize it, take self-control over it, and make ourselves feel better and move on. Because the truth is that love is real, and love is available to everyone. You know, we are wired for love. Our hearts are built to want to connect with other people. And so there is an entire world full of hot, wonderful, beautiful, open-hearted, amazing queer women that also want to love and connect. We're not the only ones sitting here single and lonely. They are everywhere. And so if you want to love and connect, and if you want to find somebody, that's available to you. And yeah, sometimes we run into emotionally unavailable people, but that doesn't mean that everyone's emotionally unavailable. And it doesn't mean that all the good ones are taken or that all the hot ones are messed up, or no, none of that is true. Anything negative that we ever have to say about it being hard to meet someone else is just a lie that we tell ourselves. Because the truth is that love is real. The only things that keep us from having the love that we want in this world is self-sabotage, when we just block ourselves from any opportunity, when we don't go out, when we don't pursue new ways of meeting people or new things that we can do in our life, when we just keep ourselves stuck and we self-sabotage. That is definitely one way that we can block ourselves from love. But the other way is chasing the wrong women, like these emotionally unavailable women. Chasing women who are emotionally unavailable and wasting our time trying to get them to love us in ways that they never will, that they never wanted to, and that, you want to know what? It probably wouldn't even be that awesome if we got it, because, ew, why would you want to be with someone that's not into you? You know, like, I don't think that's hot. It's not hot when someone doesn't want us. It's not hot when we're not desired. Yet it's so hot to be with a woman who wants us. It is so hot to be desired. That is such a better thing to be with. And so why wouldn't we just do that? It's so unpleasant to give our time and our attention and our love to unavailable women who aren't willing to love us back. It is so yummy to be loved back the right way. And there's a world full of women that are willing and waiting to do that. And in fact, if that's what you want, that's what you're going to have. And what it means is that the woman you're going to have it with, the woman that you're eventually going to love, is already out there somewhere. She's alive right now, and she's waiting for you, and she's thinking about you. And all of those future plans, when she thinks about waking up next to the woman she loves and feeling happy and holding hands and walking around and having someone to go somewhere with and do things with and spend holidays with and spend vacations with and introduce to all the people that she loves and all her favorite places, when she's having those fantasies, she is having them about you. And you're going to have just as big of a crush on her as she has on you when you meet, and it is going to be so wonderful. And she's waiting for you. And the only thing keeping you from meeting her is wasting time on unavailable women or self-sabotaging. And the crazy thing is that both of those things are entirely within our hands. So if we want to have love, we can. And if you want to learn more about finding your lesbian soulmate faster and easier, I have a free guide called Find Your Lesbian Soulmate, and it's for free at attracther.net. Attracther.net. So if you want, just go to attracther.net right now and download your free guide. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, keep remembering that hot lesbians are everywhere, that love is real, and that the woman of your dreams is on her way into your life in perfect timing. And I will see you in the next video.